All right, it's that time of the week. What's up, IndyCar fans? We got a lot to talk about today. One of the more Indy 500, more exciting Indy 500s I've seen in some time. So there's going to be plenty of commentary. But we are mostly here to talk about fantasy lineup strategy and Q&A ahead of the Detroit GP. Lots to talk about before we get into it. Some quick introductions for those of you that are new. My name is Ross, I'm the founder of GridRival. We also have with us today Mike, our CTO, Ryan Booth, Director of Business Operations, William Laddie, our Principal Software Engineer, and our famous guest, Chase Holden, who appears to be having technical
I,
challenges. So
I
for the
did just
moment, he's
get
just a black box.
I did get a message from Chase. He says he's here and he sent us a picture and it looks fine on his end, but not on our end.
User error. Um, so maybe we have Chase today, maybe we don't. We'll survive without him, but hopefully he can make his way. Quick review of driver salary changes after the Indy 500, and I think there's probably plenty of commentary from this group. First of all, I will open by saying my lineup absolutely stunk. I mean, just totally stunk last week. Um, we'll go through lineups, but it was, I think it was one of my worst IndyCar events of the season in terms of fantasy points, and I have you four to blame for it. So um, all right, let's start at the top of the list. We had lots of changes this week. 5 drivers up the maximum price change of $2 million. Malukas, Connor Daly, your boy Chase, great race, and we
Yeah.
all predicted that. I mean, sorry, some of us. I didn't, but that was an incredible showing from him. Let's see, Christian Rasmussen up 2 million, Louis Foster up 2 million, Devlin DiFrancesco 2 million. Up 1.9. Ferrucci, Nolan Siegel up 1.6, had 199 great laps. Um, Marcus Armstrong, Colton Herta, Felix Rosenquist, Graham Rahal, Stingray, Robert Schwartzman, all up between 0 and 700K. Several drivers stayed flat after the Indy 500. Alex Palou, no surprise there. It's kind of hard to move, certainly hard to move up when you're at the top, but he at least stayed flat. Had a great race. Pato stayed flat. Rhinus VK flat, and of course Jacob Abel did not participate, so he didn't move. On the downward swing, not as much volatility going downwards. We had 2 drivers drop the full amount. McLaughlin had a heartbreak on the warm up lap. Kyle Kirkwood down 2 million. Rossi down 1.8. Dixon down 1.5. Power down 1.5. I think we talked about this. I feel like we were pretty right on these from the last show, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not Rossi, but Newgarden down 1.2. Marcus Ericsson down 1 million. And then on the smaller side, Christian Lundgaard down a half. Callum Ilott down 0.4. Kiff Dog mostly flat, but down 100K. So before we get into Detroit, any commentary? Any commentary from the crew on the Indy 500?
It was a great lineup for me with like 3 DNFs and a penalty. It was looking a lot better with Ericsson finishing P2 than P30, whatever.
Yep.
And I still think I will never be convinced otherwise. Like Joseph Newgarden was going to win that race without those issues. So
So this race came down to two things. First of all, survive. Second
Mm-hmm.
of all, don't get caught cheating.
Yeah,
Which
apparently.
I mean, like 5 cars caught cheating in a single week. Like that's got to be a record.
They
I've
say
never
if you
seen
ain't
that in my
cheating, you
life
ain't
in any
trying.
series.
If you
Yeah,
ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yeah.
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've got to say, I blame the coach for Siegel's last lap incident. So J.R.
Mm.
Hildebrand is the coach now,
Oh, really?
and he very famously had 199 really good laps at Indy,
Ah,
and then
that's
lap number
right.
200, or in fact, like the very last turn was not so great, and yeah, so he performs to the level of coaching he received. Um,
199.
Yeah.
I think we ran 30 green flag laps, maybe 40.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yellow fest.
Yeah. And I
We were
paid drop fees to optimize my lineup to get wrecked with DNFs. So my team value has cratered. So I am value hunting from here on out because I just can't afford it. It's not that I spot value right now. I can't afford anyone anymore. I wrecked myself with this Indy 500. It's because if you look at the top the top of the board was all red.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
rough.
my lineup was looking good until Rossi blew up and then lit on fire. And then the whole Ericsson thing. I also had Newgarden.
mhm.
The car conked out on him. So
Oh, wait a
um,
sec. My lineup actually crushed it last week. I must have been looking at a different league I was in or something. I smoked all you guys.
yeah, like if you have enough lineups, one of them is bound to be right.
I had 773 points and my team went up 4.6 million.
I did a negative a bunch of everything. I want to hear the Chase Holden boots on the ground report though.
Yeah, it was obviously very zoned in on Connor's camp. I was with them pretty much through the whole race, and we were on edge, especially when he was leading the amount of laps he did. So he was my number one pick with the 248 this week. Rasmussen was another guy that I had locked in that did really well. I figured he would because of how aggressive he was, because everybody else was probably gonna be like, I don't want to get wrecked, so they just get out of his way, because he kind of had that energy about him. And then I had Ferrucci. I had Sato, Dixon, and Newgarden, though, not so hot. So kind of a wreck shop for me. But I will say, had a record number of people that I would just walk by when I was in the pits or just around Gasoline Alley that would just look at me and go, "Hey, GridRival." And I would just be like, "Yeah." And like that
Really?
was it. So yeah. So it was good.
That's
It
awesome,
was cool.
dude.
There's a lot of people getting the brand recognition out there. That's what counts. And
Heck yeah, man.
so that was fun. And then really honestly, it's Thursday now. It feels like it's a Tuesday. That's
Mhm.
how scrambled eggs my brain has been. So I'm excited to get back in the mix this weekend with Detroit. And yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, Connor's got another shot next year. I want to see him get it. It was wild. His pee pants story was huge too.
Oh yeah.
How he peed his pants before the race. I told him, why didn't you just do it while you were racing? I was like, just wait a little longer.
Yeah.
He couldn't hold it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty wild.
And
And you were on pit lane with him, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we were all around. So I spent a lot of the time up. We had some seats up by the pagoda, and so
Oh,
I
cool.
spent a lot of time up there just so I could kind of watch them come down the front stretch. I went down to the pits probably the beginning of the race. I was there. I spent the most of the race up top, and then in the sweet box with Connor's mom, girlfriend, and agent. So we just kind of sat around and that the granny. I don't know if you guys have seen the content with that old lady that was there. She's like Granny or something on TikTok.
Uh-uh.
She just randomly came into the box and like they sat her down and said, "We're gonna leave her here for a little bit." And so we just like we're just babysitting this grandmother in the box for probably about like 10-15 minutes, and they came back and got her. So that was some of the highlights of it. Like I said, it was just people all over the place. I had cognition overload. I'll put it that way. So trying to stay locked into everything. But man, I was so pumped for Alex Palou though. Getting to watch him, like just with my own eyes down there, like get out of the car and do his celebration and watch all the guys run over there. Like I hope everybody in the world that's an IndyCar fan gets to experience the end of that race from pit lane at some point in their life. It is incredible to watch that all unfold in real time. So very grateful for that. Grateful for you guys, and excited to for next year, of course. But for this weekend, hate I couldn't be in Detroit, but very excited to start making some picks and getting ready for that.
And to give us some credit before we get into the tiers, because we did just say we all did horrible for the Indy 500. But if you listened to us specifically on the last show and you picked one pick from each of us, you would have done really well. Ryan called Palou's Indy 500 win. I called Devlin DeFrancesco as best of the rest. Chase called Daly. William, you had.
I was also advocating Connor Daly.
You also count, yeah. So like, yeah, so we could put together an individual pick from each of us and put together a killer lineup for the Indy 500.
So and
Amen.
I provided. I think what you're trying to say is I provided no value last show, but I did listen to
got the
all
most
four of
points.
you, and that's why I beat all of you guys.
Yeah,
It's even more impressive that I managed to score 0 points basically, and I had Connor Daly as talent driver, who was extremely successful.
Here's
And
my
I
lineup.
still-
You guys want to hear my lineup for the 500?
Yes.
So Daly, the talent driver, Alex Palou, Castro Neves, Siegel, Pato, Newgarden. It's pretty solid, man.
That's
Did
pretty
that with
solid.
Newgarden.
I mean,
That's
you had-
700 points in IndyCar League is, I mean, the top
Especially
people on
for
the
the
global
500.
leaderboard are the highest I see, AFC in 814 here.
and
Yeah, I'm pretty good
well,
at
I
this.
mean, it helps that Newgarden was the only one of those drivers who didn't have a problem. And I'm not counting Siegel since he did finish tail ends of the lead lap, even with the crash.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I'll share this: the best lineup mathematically possible for results from the Indy 500 was $81.6 million of team value. So it's a wild
Wow.
result. So the lineup was Palou, Malukas, Rasmussen as talent driver, Daly, Ferrucci, DiFrancesco. 81.6 million, 991 points. So
Wow.
yeah, it's insane. So anyone saying like, oh, as soon as someone has 110 million, they're running away with the league. 81.6 million scored 991 points on the Indy
Yeah,
500.
I think people only say that in F1 leagues.
Yeah, well, there's been
'Cause I
some
think-
comments. There's been
Has
some
there?
comments on the IndyCar paddock and
Oh, got it.
IndyCar, league chat.
Yep. The nice thing about American racing is it is less top heavy usually. Like
Yeah.
if we put aside Palou winning almost every race, like it's actually really interesting, like the rest of the grid in IndyCar.
Shall we get into some tiering here and talk about strategy? We have this week's drivers broken into 6 buckets. Ryan, have you named them this week?
I have done tier names again.
Okay.
So we're in
So-
great shape.
The first tier is the you don't have a choice tier.
This
What's-
is the so Alex Palou, a Spaniard. The French Open is going on right now. So this is the Rafael Nadal on clay tier. He's
Okay.
1 of 1. You know he's going to win. He's just by far the best and dominates everything, and to the point where it's ridiculous and there's nothing left to say. So he's 1 of 1, and that's just it. I don't know what else to say about Palou in his season at this point.
Yep. So Palou's priced at 30.4 million. Next driver down is 24.9. So that's why we're putting him in his own category. So tier 1, you really don't have a lot of choices. For those that I'm guessing most of the people on the show are at this point pretty familiar with the mechanics of the game. Below is what we typically call a blue chip driver on GridRival. Is definitely going to be good for a lot of points. If you are in dire need, like it sounds like Michael now is, of gaining team value, probably not the driver that you want to consider because he really can only go down. I mean, as evidenced by that, he finished first at the Indy 500 and his salary just stayed flat. So moving on to tier 2.
Actually, what one
Do you have a-
interlude right there?
Yeah.
William, if I am signing Alex Palou for 5 races, what happens to me at Iowa?
What happens to you at Iowa? You get him for the first race at Iowa. You do not get him for the second race at Iowa. That's coming up. It's now close enough that we have to think about it when we're setting our contract lengths. The Iowa doubleheader is being treated as 2 totally separate events by GridRival. What we're going to do is after that first race, we're going to get lockdown lifted as soon as possible, and you'll have not even 24 hours to go complete your lineup for Iowa 2. So keep that in mind as you're signing your contracts. Those are 2 separate races.
Mhm.
I say that for Palou because I think tons of people are going to take Palou for 5 races and then miss out on Palou for the second Iowa race.
That'll be the one
here's
who
the thing
wins
with the
it, too.
cooldown rule. With the cooldown rule being a thing, we have to have Palou out at some point. We have 11 races left. So if you take him 5 now, then you have him out for Iowa 2, then you can lock him up for the rest of the season since there's 11 races left at this point. Where's the season gone? We're already at the end of May. So keep that in mind. Also, the question is, do we want Palou for ovals? This was his first oval win. Can he do it on a shorter oval like Iowa? Very possibly the way he's been running. So Iowa 2 might not be a bad time to have him out anyway. If you do have him out before then, you're going to have him out twice. Keep that in mind as well. If you have him out earlier, that's 6+ races on the back ends of that cooldown.
Bucket 2, 4 drivers. We got Scott Dixon, Will Power, Pato Award, Scott McLaughlin, all between 24.9 and 23.1 million. Ryan?
This is the beer goggles tier.
Okay.
Let's say you're in the snake pit, 20 beers deep, putting together your lineup. You're like, oh man, these drivers are so sexy. They're good looking. Like my buddies, like I can't wait to brag to my buddies about my lineup. And then you wake up the next morning hungover, you look at the standings in the light of day, they didn't score well, and you just want to puke. But at the time, it seemed like a really good idea, and it seemed really good looking. And then the next day, not so much.
Scotty Mack may be the only one that looks good. I would say that he might pass the beer goggles test for me this week in Detroit. I don't know. I feel like a Chevy there's got to be a Chevy champion this race for the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix. You know, Honda has been doing a great job at the Chevy race for the last couple of years. So I feel like if there's one guy out of this, Scotty Mack having retribution from his quick wall ride in the beginning, which is one of the most gut-wrenching things I think I've ever witnessed in my life. Shades of the 1992 Indy 500. I feel really good about him this week. I think that he'll be the one that gets some retribution. I'm definitely at least seeing a podium for Scotty Mack. My salary didn't really align for it on the IndyCar picks this week, but if you're watching this, good for you, because I'm telling you, get Scotty Mack.
Ryan, do you have any dissenting points of view that you'd like to share on Scotty Mack?
I do not. And to be clear, the beer goggles thing was more for what happened at the 500, not necessarily their outlook for this week. I think honestly, all of these guys are probably undervalued at this point, and I am sure I will have at least one of these four in every single lineup this week, probably targeting Scotty Mack as the number one guy. I think he's the strongest one here, and you know, just for everyone involved, I would love to see him run more laps in Detroit than he did at Indy.
Yes.
And there's a lot of value upside here for these drivers. So you can't afford, in my opinion, you can't afford to not have someone at this tier, or possibly even two of them. There's enough budget to run like a Pato Scotty Mack lineup together. Like there's some real value, because don't forget, everyone further down the line has risen in value. This is where value has dropped. So making the right pick here, I think, is pretty essential for like the next 2 to 3 races as they recover and go up from where they were.
I think we shouldn't be sleeping on Scott Dixon. Like, he was looking good, if not for a mechanical problem. So like, hopefully that doesn't repeat itself with Detroit. The other question mark I would have is Penske did just fire a bunch of people last week. Don't know if that's going to cause any sort of discontinuity as far as the team operations, the strategy calls. Like, these are strategists that got canned in some cases. So we'll keep an eye to see if things are gelling well as you go through practice and qualifying Friday and Saturday. Don't sleep on Dixon. McLaughlin is the best bet, or the best value among the other drivers of that tier for sure. Improvement index is 11. And I'd say he has a better chance of getting teammate points than Dixon does, since Dixon has Palou as a teammate.
No one's mentioned Will Power. Is he the driver to avoid in this bucket?
If Flavor Flav's there, yes. Definitely don't play him if Flavor Flav's around. That's a real stat now.
He had a very anonymous Indy 500, and it just hasn't clicked this season for some reason.
Yeah, it was jarring to see the difference between him and Newgarden. You know, they obviously both started at the same spot, pretty much same situation, and Newgarden was carving through the field, making progress. And I think Will Power's name was said maybe once or twice on the broadcast.
That's tough, because he has been known to, I mean, he's kind of like the face of IndyCar for a little while, man. He was like the guy. You got to start to wondering, like, is it something that's off the track that's maybe in his head this year, or like what's going on? Because you don't want to ever feel like he's the kind of guy that will let those things mess with him, but something is definitely different this year. So and just from being around, he doesn't seem much different as a person, being around him in the pits and things like that. But it's just whatever they're doing is not translating on track for him this year. And if there, like I said, if there was any Chevy driver out of this group that I'm looking for, it's Scotty Mack over him. And could be an age thing, could be a lot of things going on with it. Contract year coming up. I mean, there's a ton of different things at play right now with Will Power.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Bucket 3, we got Kyle Kirkwood, Christian Lundgaard, Colton Herta, Joseph Newgarden, all between this is a very tight tier, 19.6 million to 20.8. Very, very tight. Kyle Kirkwood down 2 million. Maybe he's at a discount. Joseph Newgarden down 1.2. Maybe he's at a discount. We have next week is a oval, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right, Gateway. That's 2 weeks from now. That is the next race.
Ryan, hit us.
The Chili's 2 for 20 tier. I don't know if anyone remembers the Chili's 2 for 20 deals, and it was like, I can't believe I can get these amazing entrees for, basically $10 each. These are 20, so I went with 2 for 20, and you can basically roster 2 of these drivers at the $20 million range, and you would not expect, if I told you at the beginning of the year that these drivers would be right at 20 million, you probably wouldn't have believed me. So the Chili's 2 for 20 tier, this is what it is.
I love it.
If I'm going with the one guy out of this one, I'm going with Lundgaard here. I think Lundgaard has shown what it takes at Detroit. He is arguably the best driver at McLaren this year, especially on the streets. He's always got a really mean look about. I don't know if you've ever really just looked at that guy, but when you look in his eyes, I don't know if there's a soul there. Like he's
pretty
full blown, full throttle.
Pretty
so,
stoic.
Yeah, very stoic guy. I like Lundgaard this week in this tier, and he is one of my official picks that I made for IndyCar this week, just because of what he's been able to do with RLL here, and just of how strong he's been this season on the street and road courses.
I like it. Any other takers here?
I'm cold on Andretti right now. Not the alleged cheating seems a little bit more egregious than glue in terms of what it could mean to the car's performance or outcome. More details will come out over time, but I'm just cold on them. Like, I'm unsure. I'm not making a move on Andretti right now.
So I don't know well enough. That component that they allegedly modified, is that specific to the Speedway Aero kit, or is that something that's universal between the road course and the Speedway package? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a shocking lack of information compared to all of the photos and everything Penske that came out with Epoxygate. I just haven't seen it. Maybe it is out there, but I haven't seen a lot of information on the spacers.
This was something caught by the inspector, whereas the Penske thing was caught by Chip Ganassi.
Right.
So like of this tier, I would say Newgarden's interesting, but wait a week. If you wait a week, you can lock him up for 3 ovals. You'll have Gateway and then both Iowas. But I do think Newgarden's a discount, but I do want to hold out for a week just because he's an oval guy, and I want all of the ovals with Newgarden. And hopefully no mechanical failures.
How do we feel about Kirkwood? Only because he is one of several, one of 2 drivers that dropped the full 2 amount next to Scotty McLaughlin.
I said my piece. I'm cold. I need more information before I'm totally okay sitting out Andretti as a whole team for right now and just seeing what shakes out and then getting back on. Maybe that's a bad idea, but that's where I stand on it.
I kind of like Kirkwood this week. I think I'm willing to take the chance that whatever Andretti was messing around with is not going to carry over to Detroit. I think Kirkwood should be strong here on the streets of Detroit, and he is at a very solid price point.
4th place last year in Detroit, Kirkwood.
I will say the one thing about Andretti on street courses, they have a very strong simulation program. They have to. With street courses, they've done really well at Toronto. Obviously, Kirkwood being the only guy that's won at Long Beach. But I mean, this is just more of me looking at Lundgaard in this category. But I'm not gonna say that like I'm all out on Andretti, because I mean, Herta had a really good qualifying run. I think he started this race on pole last year, if I'm not mistaken. And so with that alone, I do feel like they know that if they're going to get back in the hunt at some point, it's now, especially with Kirkwood. But street courses is probably all that I would be comfortable doing anything with Andretti on at this point.
Any closing thoughts? We moved tier 3. Tier 3, 6 drivers, second largest tier. We got Felix Rosenquist, Santino Ferrucci, Graham Rahal, Alexander Rossi, Marcus Ericsson, Marcus Armstrong, and Marcus Ericsson. 17.6 million at the top, 13.3 at the bottom, so a little bit bigger spread. And the top 3 drivers are all in the 17, so those 3 are grouped pretty close. Ryan, hit us.
So this one's a little bit of a stretch. I'll run through it quick. This is the Dante's Inferno tier, because you can tie all of them back to either Dante or some sort of circle of hell from their weekend. You got Rosenquist had the Creed livery, so Christian Rock, pretty anti-hell, so he's safe there. Little heaven and hell type of deal. Santino Ferrucci, Italian, Dante, easy. He's also a fiery guy. You had Graham Rahal in his little safety vest, kind of like a mall cop firefighter or something. Rossi actually caught on fire. Armstrong had, obviously Indy 500 was a little bit of level of hell for him last year, and he had a big crash this year. Not in the race, thankfully. And then Marcus Ericsson, the penalty from hell. I would say getting your P2 turned into P31 is got to be one of the circles. I didn't read the whole poem,
who crashed on the pace lap.
Yeah, so there you go.
There we go. Dante's Inferno. Losses. So this tier actually mostly went up in value. So we had Rossi down 1.8, so he might be the value pick, and then Ericsson down $1 million. Ericsson second last year at Detroit. There's a lot of great finishers last year at Detroit. Marcus Armstrong, 3rd place last year. Rossi, 5th place. So
it is worth noting Detroit was a mess last year. Lots of contact, lots of just it was a total mess.
It was a dog fight. Let's be real. They were bowing, his elbows were out, dude. Colton Herta hit the wall. He drove straight into it.
Everyone had contact with something at one point or another, whether it was a wall or another car.
Yeah. But you know what the best contact was? It was the contact of starting 22nd last year and then finishing 8th, and that's Felix Rosenquist. And that's the guy. That's the one. And he has been proven to do that. Like, he can just shave off positions like nobody's business. So he is my number 1 pick to have in this tier for this race. And Marcus Armstrong would be like right there at second, but it's got to go to Fro. He's a little older. He's a little more experienced. He just got out of the Creed car. He's going to hold on to that memory. He's going to want to take it higher again. I hope that he starts outside of 10th, and I hope that he gets up all the way into the top 5, because I want those pass and place differential potential points, and that's what Fro can deliver. So I'm all in on Fro this week. That's my guy from that tier. Dante's Inferno tier. He will be Dante. He will champion them. That was the best game on PlayStation 3, by the way. I still remember that game to this day, and it's probably the only game on PS3 that I'd ever want to play again. So,
Good to know. Dante's Inferno. Any other hot takes on Dante's Inferno tier?
Is Mike still out on this Andretti? Because I like this Andretti.
I'm not out. I'm cold. Like,
okay,
I'm cold.
Yeah, man.
I am with Chase on like Rosenquist, like Armstrong, but yeah, I mean, you got an Andretti at 13.3. It becomes the most tempting, I would say, out of like what I'm cold on. But yeah, also, Rossi dropped 1.8, and I would say I haven't made up my mind here. There's a number of drivers that I like from here, but I am putting like Rosenquist, Armstrong on the top of the list. I might be Armstrong over Rosenquist, but
any standouts as bad choices of this tier? Like who's the worst of this 6?
I don't want to touch Rossi at all.
Rahal.
I don't have faith in that program or for him with his specifically. I don't know. It just feels like it's a very weird year for Alexander Rossi. Did not start out the way that he intended to. It's just the vibes off with him. And then Graham Rahal, I don't think we're going to see anything close to excellence this year other than what we saw at the Sancio Grand Prix. I don't know what they were doing for that race, but my God, they were killing it. So I really just want to kind of stay away from Rossi, and I'd probably stay away from Rahal this one.
Yeah, I was going to have Rahal at the top of my list as well. Drivers not to touch. That Rahal Letterman programs looks pretty lost this year, unfortunately. As for Rossi, I want to see how he unloads. Like Ed Carpenter Racing is a situation where I really would prefer to have him for ovals just based on history. So maybe that's another wait a week situation, but see how they unload. But yeah, I would say that the season hasn't gone quite as people would have hoped for him and for that team. Kind of unfortunate to have the mechanical issue and then the fire last week there. But yeah, Rahal's the biggest don't touch. And then I think Ferrucci is actually another one where I would say wait a week. Like I'm not sure that I want Ferrucci on a street course necessarily or AJ Foyt Racing.
Especially after
Ferrucci
he just
gonna be
went
doing
up
both.
1.9.
Let's move on here. We're making pretty decent time. By the way, if anyone's listening has questions, get them in there. We got some merch commentary from the famous Dustin Benway on every show. Wanting that merch. It'll be the first phone call. Let's see. Second to last bucket. We got 5 drivers. Also, these salary bands are pretty tight this week. Got David Malukas, 12.9, Rhinus VK, 12.5, Nolan Siegel, 12.2. Connor Daly, 11.6. Christian Rasmussen, 10.7. Ryan.
This is the meme coin tier. We got a lot of green, a lot of skyrocketing up towards the moon. And now if you're on the outside looking in, you got to figure out, is now the time to get involved with them? Will they hold their value or will you be left holding the bag?
Yeah. Hold on for dear life.
Yeah, potentially. That's the decision here.
So if we're talking about who we're buying, I'm going to go ahead and say this. I'm all in on the Renus VK cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Michael Cannon just signed on with Dale Coyne, which is a really great guy to have in the pits. Renus has been one of those guys that has shocked the world, I feel like, this year with Dale Coyne Racing. And now with the Michael Cannon hire, I don't think that's going to change. And I mean, I know we got Connor Daly in this tier. We got Rasmussen there. Nolan Siegel's there. But as far as bang for your buck, Renus VK is not going away quietly. He's still so young. He still has so much to prove. I'm looking for him to have some really great runs, especially over the next 5 races.
Would it be a stretch to say that he is for sure either the top ranked or in the top group of drivers outperforming their vehicles this season?
Yes.
Like, would you rank him number 1?
I would put him number 1 because just we've known about that program. We know that program is, no one expects anything major out of Dale Coyne until this year. And it's just another testament too to show why IndyCar is what it is. I mean, it's so driver driven, right? It's about who is in the cockpit of that car and who can get the most out of it with just their hands on the wheel. And that alone shows just the type of talent that he is. And so for them going out and getting a guy like Michael Cannon, I mean, I was not expecting that. And that to me says that they are all in on this kid. And if that team is all in on this kid, we already know Renus is all in on himself. To the moon, dude. To the moon, Renus VK.
Yeah, I think at 12 million, he seems like he still has decent upside, especially considering he stayed flat at Indy. I'm just looking at his driver profile salary chart, and I want to see
if it's
what the
street
trend
and
is.
road, you know where to go.
VK Coin.
I mean, Dale Coyne would have some serious overlap with some NASCAR fans if you come out with the Dale Coyne meme coin.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it would. I mean, he could do it. He should do it, honestly.
Renus has went up every single event except for the Indy 500. Has not dropped in salary one time this year. And
Proofs in the pudding.
3 of his 6 event, he's went up the full 2 million.
Up and to
So
the right.
we do have to start asking, what is his plateau going to be from a salary perspective? His best finishes 9th, 4th, and 9th. So honestly, I mean, if he keeps pulling that, he has quite a bit of upside still.
Yeah, no arguments there. I fumbled the Nolan Siegel meme coin bag because
Siegel coin.
Siegel coin. I fumbled that bag. I managed the contracts to have him not for the Indy 500 so that I could pick him up and go long after. And of course, he goes up 1.6 for the Indy 500. And now I've lost that upside. So I've fumbled that bag. Still looking at Siegel for the upside, because when you look at the equipment difference to where his teammates are, the upside is there as no one puts it all together and is able to get the results I know he can get. But what I followed Chase on this one too, because VK coin is good. It's a good coin.
His name is Dale Coin.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also let's look at Siegel coin performance since the start of the season. Siegel coin started at 7.6 million. Now, first race, I believe, thanks to Will Power, did not finish.
Yep.
After that, up 200, up 200, up 1.9, up 1.1, up 1.6. So, and I think his upside in a very, very different way than Renus is still, there's still room there.
Still a lot of room there. I was just mad at myself for not like having him on cooldown for the 500 to now lose another 1.6.
I think that was a good move for you.
My best contract value move was Devlin DiFrancesco at plus 2 million.
Be able to hold on to that one forever. Siegel has, though, man. Siegel's been very impressive this year, and we already know that he's got great equipment that he's in, and his skill level is just going to keep increasing. So he's already one of those guys that started off the year where, in my mind, I was like, okay, well, that'll just kind of be like he'll just kind of cruise through the season. He hasn't really been cruising through the season. He's been performing. I've seen him have a lot of great practice results. He's been able to kind of stick it and stay consistent through the races. So if there is somebody to put behind VK right now, it would be Siegel out of that group. And then with the ovals coming up, obviously, we'll talk more about it when that time comes. But Connor's somebody I'm going to have my eye on with Iowa right around the bend, and Gateway, of course, too. If he does those Schechter moves and he gets up top and rips top like we all know he can.
There's a callback. Thomas Schechter. There's a callback.
Yeah, I'll likely have Malukas, Daly, and Newgarden starting next week.
So of this tier, I have Daly as wait a week. I want him for all the ovals. So wait a week, then you get him for Gateway and both Iowas. Looking at this week though, Rasmussen's interesting. Siegel is interesting. I think I think Rasmussen has a better chance of beating his teammate than Siegel does. Like Siegel does have two very strong teammates in Pato Award and Christian Lundgaard. The other factor is Siegel hasn't done Detroit in an Indy car yet. We are starting to run out of tracks where it's his first go round. Didn't fare well in the Indy Next race last year. Did pull up that result a moment ago. So Siegel might be wait a week. I do like Siegel directionally. The question is this a peak just like at the moment or not? Street courses are also very volatile though. If you have a yellow fall the right way, like all these guys on the back end, they could be up front. So that's the magic of street course racing as well. So hearts go wrong. So I'm waiting on Daly. Rasmussen and Siegel are both interesting. I think BK might be near the peak. Malukas might have some room to grow if Floyd continues to perform.
They definitely got some cheddar to grow. I'll tell you that after they finish at the Indy 500. They're doing pretty nice.
Second place, not so bad.
Yeah, not at all.
Let's see. Last tier, 7 drivers, the largest tier. At the top of the 7-driver final tier, we got Louis Foster 9.2, DeFrancesco 8.8, Schwartzman 8.6, Kiffin 8 million. So those are all closely grouped together. Ryan's boy Stingray Rob 9.6, Callum Milat 5.5, and closing out the group, we got Jacob Abel at 4 million. Ryan,
This is a fun one. This is the Cain and Abel tier. We've got like a little very biblical. We got sinners and saints going on. We had Foster and DeFrancesco out front, ruining what could have been a very fun finish. That's not okay in my book. We had Schwartzman, who went from hero to attempted murder. That is notably like Cain, notably a sin. Simpson and Stingray Rob, obviously Stingray Rob, famously big time Jesus guy. Kiffin Simpson got taken out in the same wreck as Stingray Rob, caused by an outside force known as a NASCAR driver.
Rough.
Callum Ilott,
rough. That was rough.
Yeah. Callum, big time cheater, another sin. Look at that, all the way to the back of the grid. And then Jacob Abel didn't participate, but the tier is called Cain and Abel, and his last name is Abel, so he fits in that way.
Dude.
Guilty by association.
I want to get you to plan out everything in my life, dude, with those kind of tiers.
Yeah.
We started this the other week, and now I'm just kind of addicted to naming the tiers. So we're going to keep going and see until I run out of creativity, which hopefully is not soon, but it might be.
Ben Scruggs says Andretti street course dampers are elite. Michael, something to consider.
I mean, well, Ben, I'm going to read whatever you write this week. Like I said, I'm cold. I didn't say I'm out. Like your article can change things.
I gotta say, Ben's article on Epoxygate was maybe some of the best content that's been on the GridRival site.
I'm gonna throw it out there. If anyone hasn't read Ben's Epoxygate write-up, I think it's one of the better write-ups on Epoxygate that I've read. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, let's see how Andretti unloads tomorrow. That's what I want to say about Andretti as a whole. Let's see how they unload.
All right, so we got 7 drivers. Let's start. This is a big group. So who we got? We have Detroit. Then we have if you're going 5 race, you got two ovals. Who are you avoiding in this group?
Jacob Abel. Yeah, like they are very, very last in the leader's circle standings right now.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that car has not shown anything this year, so I'm not touching Abel. Like theoretically, there's upside, but they have to finish up. Like maybe Alex Dunn flies over from Ireland and piles up half the field like he did in the F2 race last week, and then Abel gets a bunch of spots.
Abel's got a big time rest advantage over everybody else in the field, though.
He does
True.
that.
I mean, look, think about it. Abel might be better than Pelot. Pelot's been busy on media tours, just a whirlwind of things. He threw out the first pitch at the Mets game. Like, what if the Metsiness rubs off on him? That could be a huge disaster for him. Jacob Abel, nice and well rested.
My Mets took 2 out of 3 from Chicago. Just saying.
I did talk to Jacob Abel twice at the Indy 500. So I did get to speak with him. He has great hair, by the way. His hair is real. It's real natural hair. So I have to compliment him on that. Definitely rested for sure. There was no bags under the eyes. But I will agree that it just seems like they haven't really figured out a strategy on their team. I did have some communication with him about what could help your strategy. So hopefully things will get better. Another guy I'm avoiding is Devlin DeFrancesco, because we already talked about RLL, and we didn't want to have anything to do with them here at all. But there are 2 guys that I have my eyes on, and before we transition, I'm sure y'all will talk about them. So I'm excited to see who you guys like in this tier this week, because there's one guy that I feel very confident about, and I think Ryan will like the guy.
Yeah, definitely. But I will say, before we move on to the guys we like, my 2 takes that were way right about the Indy 500 amongst all the ones that were wrong, Pelot winning and Schwartzman being a disaster. I pretty much said every pit stop was probably going to be horrific.
Mhm.
When he got back in traffic, it was going to be bad. And look what happened. He was really bad in traffic. all his pit stops were bad until he finally like had the worst pit stop that's maybe ever been seen. So that was pretty much dead on. So I'll at least take credit for that amongst scoring like 30 points all weekend.
Rookie woes. He had him. He is a rapper though. He does rap. At least he can rap.
He's got that going for him. My pick in this tier is Kevin Simpson. If he can avoid trouble, he's got the pace. He just has to put together a clean race, which might be hard at a street course, but they've got the pace. They just need the consistency.
Of this group, you could argue he's in some of the best equipment, right?
Yeah, Chip Ganassi has won almost every race this year.
Yeah.
That is true. I'm going to say Stingray Rob. I'm going with Stingray this week. And I would never typically pick Stingray Rob at a street course. But after his team and him as a driver, getting a top 10 earlier this year on a street course, that kind of sold me a little bit. I kind of know a little bit about what's going on in that Juncos Hollander racing camp. And I like what I'm seeing. I kind of like, I wouldn't mind Connor or Stingray this weekend. I know we've already talked about that before, but I really like the Juncos program. They've really stepped it up big especially after Long Beach, just from some of the things that they've been able to put together. Stingray's head is in a really good spot. He might have some retribution this week. I don't really know if he's going to be somebody I see getting a podium anytime soon. But I will say that we can see a lot of place differential potential probably coming from Stingray, especially if the strategy falls into play the way that it did at Long Beach. So they've got some really good notes. There's a little inside information. They got great notes on streets.
If Stingray gets on the podium, I'll buy Stingray hat and shirt and wear it for one of these shows.
Oh, dude, yeah, a full. Just his face like covered all over a t-shirt.
Yeah, I will do that if he gets on the podium at any point in this season.
Well, what I'll say about this tier is in terms of like game strategy, points to value is a thing, right? Like typically at this tier, you're getting a really good points to value. You're spending $4, $5, $6, $7, $8 million relative to a healthy amount of points when you compare it to like the minimum amount of points difference between spending that money time further up the grid. But I would say right now, with where the value is, like the McLaughlin's 21-3, what lineup are you putting together that you need to have any of these people in your lineup right now? Because the math should work out that like 89, 90, $95 million lineups are going to be able to roster really strong teams. A lot of teams already have team values of 110, 115 million. I honestly think if you check the league, I could check the league adoption numbers in the IndyCar official league, which is a big league. I bet we're close to zero for every single one of these drivers in this tier. Unless you have like some insider information of an outsized result where you're really going to get those points and really going to get that contract value, I'm spending my money higher up on the grid and concentrating a little bit further up for the points to value. I just don't see it in this whole tier.
I'm looking at league adoptions right now to see if there's any. They're all, 5, 6.
You're
3.
stacking Pelot and Lungard. I will say.
Sorry to cut you off. Schwartzman is at 12.7. I think that's probably some rollover from people rostering him for last week.
Yeah. What were you saying, Chase?
I was saying when you're stacking Pelot and like Lungard, like you kind of have to dip. I've found that you kind of have to dip a little bit down into this tier trying to stack up some of the best top guys, but that's really when you're going with the two high sides in this, and that's it. I mean, that's a big gamble, but I see where you're coming from. But I think a lot of people that are playing, especially new players this year, they're stacking big names up top.
Studs and duds.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, to Michael's point, I feel like if I am going to this tier, it's because I'm really trying to go for some salary gain that I believe has a strong chance of occurring. And I think the commentary about Kiffin is a good argument for that. At $8 million, he doesn't have to. He needs to finish. 20th to see a pretty.
He needs to have no disasters. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
If he can just have a disaster-free race, he's going to gain you some value.
We got 10 minutes left. I don't think we got enough time to get through $100 million lineups, so I'm going to draw one at random. first of all, I'm behind. I didn't prepare one. Do any of you guys have a $100 million lineup prepared,
got
ready to
one.
go? Chase,
Yeah.
We'll go with Chase
Mike?
first.
Anybody?
I've got one.
Go for
I
it.
think we lost Chase.
Okay, I got McLaughlin, Dixon, Herta, Erickson, talent driver, Rasmussen, and Simpson, and that's 98.3 million.
Go with Kiff Dog.
Mine's not far.
Yeah. What do you got, Michael?
I've got Dixon, McLaughlin, Lungard, Armstrong, VK, Siegel. Not touching any. I'm sticking to my guns. I'm not taking anyone below 10 million. That's 94.8 million.
It's really cool how you can. I mean, you really. I like the structure of how these salaries are working out because it is so much less dependent on, needing $130 million mid-season to really be successful.
I'll remind the best team for the Indy 500 was 81.6 million for 991 points. And yes, the results because of the penalties and things like that for sure skew it. But I'm feeling way more confident with having way more money left in my bank than I am on our NASCAR.
Did anyone have that team? Do we know?
No one had that team. No one came close to having that team.
Yeah.
There were some powerful lineups out there, like mid to high eights. But no, I'd have to.
I mean, it would be pretty wild for somebody to sign a team with 18 million in the bank. It'd just be that would be wild.
There was a couple of the global lineups I checked. There's a lot of money left on the grid.
Go ahead. Sorry, I was just gonna say my guess is that. I'm hesitant to draw parallels from Indy 500 to any of the rest of the races this year, especially non-ovals. I don't think we're going to see something like that happen at Detroit or any other street course coming up.
Well, then let me throw this out there. Sancio, the best $100 million team, was 87.7 million for 904 points. The best $100 million team for Barber was 97.6 million for 700 points. I'm tracking all this. Like, it's $100 million teams are being super competitive. For Long Beach, 94 million for 941 points.
It's still way different than like 81 million. Like 10 million is a lot.
Yeah, but yes, but I'm just saying it's in the IndyCar game is playing very, very, very fair to players of all team value sizes. Where like we know for a fact that doesn't happen past the midway point of the F1 game.
No, fair.
So if we're running over a lineup.
Go for it.
I was gonna say I think I had dipped out before we came in. Were you guys giving out lineups?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just now? $100 million lineups.
Okay,
$100 million
lineups. Mine's pretty. It's pretty close. So I made I was just gonna run this one off like kind of like a one-off for this week. I promised Alex Palou that I would never make a lineup without him again. It was kind of like a bet that I had to make with him because he got mad whenever I didn't pick him, and I think that's what's been fueling his victories ever since Long Beach, or after Long Beach. So there's Palou. I had Lungard. I feel like those two as the top are really great. Then I had Felix Rosenquist, and then it gets a little weird. Connor Daly and Stingray Robb for Juncos, and then Christian Rasmussen with Ed Carpenter Racing. And I think it's at like 96 or 97,000 is the salary. But like for this one race, I call it a feeling. I feel like Rasmussen's gonna be aggressive again, hardcore, cutting up through. So
Christian
that was
coin. That's the meme coin here. I think we're at time. So hopefully, if you're still watching, you got some great advice for your leagues this week. And we're excited for a great race. We will see everybody. Was it next week already?
Yeah.
Back to back?
Next race is in 2 weeks.
Oh, 2 weeks. Okay. So we got a 2-week break. So
ovals.
Everybody enjoy the weekend, enjoy the race, and we will see you back here in 2 weeks' time. Thank you for joining. And we're done.
Yeah.